When the banshee roared, the knights rushed toward her with swords drawn like madmen. While charging, they cut down all those in their way. Siren can compel men to lose their minds with her song. The evil knights' movements were brutal and bizarre. It didn't take long. All the knights of the expedition drowned in the river. But not this man. He was deaf. He didn't even hear the sirens singing. When the sirens looked up, she saw that there was another man in his right mind, facing the deaf knight. For the first time, the siren showed her lack of confidence. She immediately disappeared into the water. Before long, she couldn't help but be curious again. She poked her head out and stared at him. The siren thought he was so different. She became curious about the deaf knight and fell in love with him. But the deaf rider was so frightened that he ran away. Riding too fast, he was knocked unconscious by a tree trunk that crossed the road. When he woke up and saw the siren covered in jewels, they were both shocked. The siren, who is good at bewitching men, she was a bit shy and tried to run away. The knight tried to grab her, but his hand was stabbed. On closer inspection, there are scales in the palm of his hand. When he pulls it off, it's gold. Siren was waiting for him in the lake. The knight came after her. She came to a waterfall and finally stopped. At this moment, Sirens finally danced beautifully. The knight pulled off a scale from her abdomen. The blood flowed out. He embraced her and kissed her, but immediately retracted his head in pain. It turns out that the Scion's tongue is also covered with scales. The siren embraced the knight and kissed her hard. Her scales and fangs pierced him. The knight tried to push her away, but couldn't. He finally pinned her down roughly. He ran her over and killed her while she was defenseless. The knight's goal was accomplished. He skinned Siren like a wild animal, even the gold on her face. Before long, his blanket was covered in gold flakes. The skinned siren was thrown mercilessly over the waterfall. She went downstream, back into the lake. The lake was red with blood. When the weary knight came to the water's edge again, without knowing it, he too drank the water. This time, his deafness was cured. After a short period of discomfort, he was ecstatic. He was rich and cured of his deafness. At that moment, Siren was reborn in blood. She woke up with bruises all over her skin. She cried out with a heartbreaking cry. The sound of her wailing drew the attention of the knight. The two looked at each other once more. In pain, Siren cried out. The knight suddenly rushed into the lake uncontrollably. It turned out that after curing his deafness, he was no longer immune to song. Like every man before him, he rushed towards the lake, screaming, struggling, dancing, and finally, exhausted, he drowned in the water. Mistaken love often begins with a misunderstanding. You think a man is gentle. The truth is that he is weak. You think a man is independent. The truth is he's a loner. You thought someone was wild. The truth is that this person is brutal.